こんばんは、iZotopeアーティストの青木正弘です。
こんばんは。ポストプロダクションプロダクトスペシャリストのマシテです。
大丈夫ですか？
大丈夫じゃないですね。はい、でも今週もね、
はい、
よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。今週は録画でお届けしてまいります。
っていうか、青木さんの横でこうやって喋るのインタビュー以来ですね。
確かに、普段はこう画面越しで喋ってますからね。
そう、画面越しでね、
はい、
皆さん見てる方もね、
はい、
今日なんかちょっと絵面違うぞ。
そうですね。いや、でもやっぱりフェイストゥフェイスだと、話しやすいですね。
話しやすいですね。横に見るといるし、なかなかね、でもこういう機会で今回はね、いただいて、収録でね。
はい。はい。というわけで、本日はスペシャルゲストにお越しいただいております。というわけで、早速ご紹介いたしましょう。マスタリング界の司法、ジョナサン・ワイナーさん。
はい。
Hello!
Welcome to Japan!
ありがとうございます。はい。
ということで、今日はですね、はい、僕らからちょっとジョナさんに質問をしながらちょっとね、いろんなお話聞けたらなと思ってるんですけれど、
貴重な機会なので。
いや、そうですよね。なかなか、実は僕、ちゃんとジョナさんと話するの初めてなんです。
そうなんですね。
前にインタビューいらした時に、ちらっと背中越し見ることあったんですけど、僕も
2019年ですね。
かな、そう、僕でもこういろいろやらなきゃいけないじゃないですか。なので、なかなか実際直接お話しする機会なかったんで、今日ね、とっても楽しみにしてて、ちゃんと先ほど挨拶もさせてもらって、嬉しい限りなんですが、ね、ということで今日はいろんな質問をね、これからちょっとさせてもらおうかなと思っております。
質問どうしましょう？
じゃあ、まずは、
僕から
いきますか？やっぱり一番近い仕事をされてるのは青木さんだと思うんで、ぜひお願いします。
じゃあ僕から質問をさせていただきます。ジョナさんに伺いたいのは、マスタリングというのは結局どういうものなのか、その定義と、あとマスタリングとミキシングの境界線がどういうところにあるのかっていうのを、伺いたいなと思っております。
Yeah. The classic definition of mastering is it's the final step in the production and the first step in distribution. And so if you sort of unpack that a little bit, you come to understand that it is recognizing what the quality of the production is, what the sound, the color, the level, but the emotion and the art, and then making sure that that will translate as well as possible to the widest range of playback environments and playback experiences. I think what a lot of people don't understand about mastering is it is not about doing any specific thing, but is about understanding what to do and figuring out the right thing to do. And it's not the same every time. It's almost impossible to use a template as an approach to always doing the same thing, because the genre might be different, your starting point is different, and your end goal is different. And so I think that underneath mastering is, at the core of it, is really critical listening, understanding, and assessment. And then, we can use EQs and compressors and limiters and whatever tools we need to use, but we have to figure out what we want to do first. So to the second part of the question, it's understandable that people can become easily confused about the difference, because if you look at a DAW in a session, usually people look at the two mix, the stereo out, assuming you're working in stereo, and that's the place where the mix comes together and the mastering happens at the same time. And it looks in a way as if you could do the same thing, do both things at once. So, if you think about the fact that there are two different words, mixing and mastering, the implication is that these are two different activities. One way you could think about it, kind of an analogy, is that of putting up an art exhibit in a gallery. So the act of painting a picture is kind of like mixing. And in that activity, you're thinking about the composition and maybe the execution, the color, everything that goes into making the painting. But then mastering is kind of like the framing and putting it in a perspective where people can appreciate it. They're two different things, and you can't do them both at once. So it's really about perspective and what you're doing at each moment. sure, we use equalizers and compressors and limiters in both cases, but it really is about, the activity is a different activity. We're thinking differently at each stage. I could say a lot more, but we only have so much time.
ありがとうございます。じゃあ、もうちょっと追加で伺ってもいいですかね。この配信をご覧のユーザーっていうのは、多くの方がミキシングとマスタリングを同じ環境で自分でやらなければならないケースが多くて、でそういった人が実際そういうことをしなければならないときに、少しでもそのマスタリングっていう領域にアプローチするときに、何をすべきかっていうのを判断、クリアに考えられるようになるために、なんか意識するべきポイントがあれば伺いたいなと思います。
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging, right? If you think about the process, a mix engineer will spend hours making decisions to get something to sound exactly the way they think it should sound. And then when the time comes to master something, it's hard to reimagine your work because you've made all the decisions intentionally. And so why would you change something afterwards? So there's some simple things you can do, like taking a break, have different environments to do each part of the work, using tools like tonal balance control, or using meters to help you understand level, whether it's the correlation meters or LUFS meters. That's where objective measurements can really help you get some perspective on your own work. But I think if you can leave some time between the mixing and the mastering stage, it's very helpful. Can I just give you two more ideas, which are not, mind-blowingly original ideas, but using references, of course, can be very helpful. Just in a general way to help measure your work. But the other thing that there's a funny phenomenon that happens when you're around other people. So if you're working by yourself in a room, sometimes you get this tunnel vision and lose perspective. If you invite somebody else to come into the room and just sit next to you, they don't have to say anything. It changes your brain. I think sometimes we hear the sound, we're imagining that we're hearing it through somebody else's ears and through their brain. And so, invite somebody else in, your wife, your cat, I don't know, somebody to give you that different perspective.
Somebody who doesn't understand how to do critical listening?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. You're not necessarily asking them to make a comment, even. Just, I want you to come in and listen to something.
Thank you. So, let's move on. 次の質問に行きましょうか。じゃあ、次の質問は、
じゃあ僕から。はい。じゃあ、次の質問お願いします。日本のポストプロダクションのスタッフのみんなは、僕もiZotopeの RX とかよく使うんですけれど、そういう新しい商品とか新しいテクノロジーを積極的に使うスタッフもいれば、なるべくそういうものを使わずに昔からあるテクニックだけで仕事をやり続けてるスタッフもたくさんいるんですけれど、その古い技術だけでやっていくこともいいとも思うんです、私個人的に。でもそういう方々って今後どういうふうに仕事をしていくべきか、ちょっとジョナサンの意見を聞きたいと思います。
Yeah, I think there are like three questions in there. So I think you kind of already said that sometimes people are really good at doing something, really good at mixing, for instance. And sometimes it's better to let the person do the thing that they're good at. You can have somebody doing the mix and somebody else, or doing the dialogue mix and somebody else doing an edit and the cleanup. So I think you don't necessarily want to force somebody, especially if it means that it's going to slow them down or they might not be as productive as you need them to be. So, if there are activities that are essential, that rely on new technology like RX to clean up dialogue and so on, and you need an engineer to level up, one of the things that I always appreciate is when you intentionally make a time for people to learn. 1 day a month or something like that, where you take a time out and you say, this is time for you to just sit and explore something new. Maybe bring in somebody who can help teach, but make that part of the workflow of the work to encourage people to grow and to learn. And as I said at the beginning, sometimes you have to require that of them because some of the new technology does facilitate, quality, and so we need to use it. The last thing I think I want to say about this, and it's a little bit controversial, but I think it's true, is that young engineers, as they are coming up, are much more used to dealing with visual interfaces and UIs, and the sort of growing up with video games and also music production tools that kind of live in that same space. And so it kind of makes sense that young engineers would be more likely to adapt more quickly and work with some of the new technologies. Again, it's not better or worse, and you certainly don't want to forget to listen and develop your critical listening skills. I mean, that's required of everybody. But working style and comfort with different kinds of ways of navigating the technology, I think is bound to be different. Of course, you always get like people like like you. You're really cool, and
Thank you.
You don't have to be young to be cool and use all the new stuff. But
yeah,
just trying to get real about it a little bit.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
じゃあ、はい。
じゃあ僕の方から、3つ目、トータルで3つの質問、で、教育に関する質問です。ジョナさんが誰かに、生徒だったり、エンジニアだったりにものを教えるときに、何か彼らにとってその聞く姿勢を持ってもらうために意識をしていることはあるでしょうか。で、それを教えていただけると、僕たちが人に逆にそのものを教わりたいっていうときに、どういう姿勢でいけばいいのかっていう答えが見つかるように思っています。
Yeah. So you can't make somebody interested in anything. So I have to assume when we all gather together to learn something that we share a common goal and a common interest. And I try to find common ground. And sometimes, that means that I have to be very, I have to take a moment and find out what their references are. Musical references, cultural references. Where I teach at Berklee College of Music, we have a very international community. So I can't assume that students coming in know all of the Western music that I grew up with. And that's actually kind of fun and interesting for me because I learn something about what's going on and what's new. But that creates a common vocabulary that I can lean into, and then we can start thinking about the goals of the work and how we're going to use the technology in the context where they're already interested. One more comment about that. I rely a lot on demonstration, and sometimes I think students they haven't experienced the possibility that you can show them. So I'll spend a lot of time demonstrating, helping them hear the things that I'm hearing, that I want them to understand, so that they can start to incorporate the understanding into their own work. So I think sharing that listening experience and that time together is really important.
じゃあ、ごめんなさい。じゃあそういった、ものを教える際に意識している、そのお互いの共通点を探して、体験を共有してっていうのが、なんか教わる側の気持ちとしても、どういうふうに教えてもらったらもっとわかるかっていうのを考えるときに役立つと思いますか？
No, I think the answer is height. Yeah, I mean, I think you were kind of restating some of what I was pointing to, and I agree. Yes, I agree with myself.
Yeah. ありがとうございます。Thank you. 4つ目、最後ですかね。
そうですね。
So let's move on to the final question. 最後の。
The final question, is this the final round? The bonus round?
No. じゃあ最後の質問でお願いします。iZotope の製品は AI を使った製品がたくさんあると思うんですけれど、今後、この AI を使った製品というのはどういうふうに進化していくべきか教えていただけたらなと思います。はい、
Yeah, so when you use AI or intelligent technology, there are two approaches you can take. One is for the technology to be an assistant or assistive, and the other is for it to be automated. And there's a time and a place for each. There are certain kinds of tasks where automation speeds up the workflow and is very helpful. And there are times when the assistive technology is a better approach because it will help you make better decisions more quickly. And I think that those two basic ideas remain intact no matter how advanced the technology gets. It just may be able to do more things or different things. I think that the change that I believe is inevitable is that AI will get better at understanding the context of the work. So it will be able to analyze or understand a program material and see all of the different instruments. It will understand whether it's a spoken voice or a sung voice, whether it's a male or a female voice, the language that's being spoken, and optimize or make recommendations based on what it is recognizing in the material. And I think that that's something that we're going to see an explosion of the capability of the technology to do that in the next, 3 years, 4 years coming up.
ありがとうございます。Thank you so much.
ありがとうございます。
ということでね、
はい、
そろそろ時間も超えてきてなんですが、
大丈夫ですか？なんか聞き逃したことはないですか？
いっぱいありますけど、この尺では。
もう一個ぐらいじゃないですか。
じゃあ、どうぞ。
いや、僕ちょっと
じゃあ、
あとないので、もう。
Can I ask you one more? Sure. Okay, thank you so much. And, okay. これから、新たにオーディオエンジニアのなりたい人、なっていく人、ちょうど日本は4月から会社に入って仕事を始める人が多いんですけれど、新しくエンジニアになる人たちに対して何か一言あったら教えていただけたらなと思います。
It's a very broad, when you say audio engineer, it's a very broad definition. I think, frankly, I think that it's very important for young engineers to get exposed to a wide range of subject matter, whether it's analog signals and interconnections and whether it's new technologies, computer systems architecture and systems architecture, understanding a little bit about operating systems and the way that they work. So I think having a good sort of a broad and general education as a starting point is really important, as opposed to worrying about specializing too quickly. I think one of the things that I believe to be true about school is that if school is doing its job, it sets you up to figure out how to learn. And so that when you leave school, you can start learning about the thing that you're going to do in your job. So, but school kind of sets the table, rather than thinking about school as being the place that will churn out polished engineers. I think that's unrealistic. So I would encourage people to have realistic expectations about what's going to happen there, and be humble and absorb as much information as you can. And I got one more thing to add to that too. And this, for some students who choose engineering because they think that they won't have to deal with people, the soft skills are so important. Understanding that what we are doing is in the service of other people's goals, and paying attention to that and learning how to interact with people, and how to collaborate with people. I think that's so important.
はい、ということでね、5つの質問、答えてもらいましたが、青木さんどうでしたか？
いやー、勉強になりましたね。多分ご覧の方も非常に勉強になったんじゃないかなと思います。
ね、やっぱりこうやって、世界のトップの人からこういうことを聞けるって、なかなかない機会じゃないですか。
なので今日もちょっとね、無理を言ってきていただいてしまって、
そうですね。
本当にありがとうございますという感じなんですが、はい、 というわけで、これがまあいつ公開になるかちょっとわかんないですけど。
そうですね。数はじゃあ今日なしでいきましょう。
そうですね。まあ第何回目かのiZotopeスペシャリストってレベルじゃないですね、これは。
今日スペシャリストじゃないです。世界の一番と話を聞くみたいな。
はい。では、サマイナーに聞こうをお送りしてまいりました。この次の週が生か配信がわかんないですけど、ジョンさんワイナーに、大きな拍手が、
はい、そうですね。
を僕らが送っておきます。
はい。
ジョンさんワイナーありがとうございました。Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye bye.